Alright guys, so today I'm going to talk about a pretty serious topic. This is a bit of a trigger warning. I'm going to talk a lot about pedophilia and sexual assault, so if you're not in the right headspace, please click out of this video. I want this to be a really safe space, and I want you guys to feel comfortable here. So if you are not prepared for that type of content, please do not watch this any further. So those of you who have known me for a while have probably already heard about the situation with the teacher in Florida. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I do have a highlight on my Instagram called Tanya. I'm going to explain it further in this video, but if you want some more information, you can go look at my Instagram and kind of follow me through the case, or I'm going to also post some links in the description to some of the articles and interviews that I did on it. So back in January, I was made aware that a teacher in Florida named Mark Lua was using my identity to catfish his students. This had apparently been going on for a while. I had no idea about it until someone messaged me and told me. I cannot even begin to describe the myriad of emotions that I was feeling when I got this news. All of these crazy emotions started flooding in. I immediately called law enforcement to tell them what was going on. I ended up getting really heavily involved in this case, and the more details that came out and the more I found out about it, the more dirty and awful it became. It was just, needless to say, the whole thing was really disgusting. Again, if you want to read more about it, go check out the links in the description and get all of the details that you might need to know to understand this video a little bit more. So anyway, when I first found out about it, I felt extremely guilty and used. I tried really hard to make myself super available and vulnerable to all of my followers. A huge part of my platform is that I put my entire life out in the open for you guys, and I think that it's really important that I do that because, for one, I want to earn your trust, but I also really want you to see that I'm a real person. But in doing so, it felt like I gave this guy all the information that he needed to pretend to be me and to hurt people, and I felt like I had failed you. I didn't want to do this anymore. I didn't want to cosplay. I didn't want to be an influencer. I tried so hard to raise awareness about sexual assault and mental health, and I tried so hard to create a safe space for my followers. And it seemed like despite all of my efforts, I had endangered you guys, and I could not deal with that. So anyway, I was super depressed, and I needed time to process everything, so I took a break from social media for a few days after I found out. In that time, a couple of really dope things actually happened. The first thing is that one of my followers, a girl named Elizabeth, who is an amazing cosplayer, started the hashtag #CosplayForCourt. And it caught on a little bit, so when I got back on social media a couple of days later, I was flooded with all of these posts and messages of people sending me encouragement and just all of this. It was awesome. You all left all of these awesome messages about how cosplay inspired you and how much you appreciated my work, and I cannot begin to express how much I needed that. Something like a hashtag might seem kind of small and silly, but it was one of the nicest things that anyone has ever done for me, and after how utterly defeated that I had been feeling for a few days, it left me just an absolute sobbing mess. I really felt like I had failed you guys, and I needed that encouragement. So everybody who participated in that, thank you so much. I don't think that I could ever make a post or anything that would really express how amazing that was and how grateful that I am. The next thing that happened when I logged back on was kind of silly. A lot of you had sent me Ko-fi. For those of you who don't know, Ko-fi is a website where you can leave tips for online creators to show that you appreciate their work, kind of like when you leave some change in a cup for the guy breakdancing on the street for nickels, but like digital. So anyway, I got back on, and there were so many Ko-fis, and every single one had a comment that said something along the lines of, I know you're having a bad time, so here's a Ko-fi so that you can go buy some Oreos and comfort food. Here, go buy Oreos to make yourself feel better. And that also really cheered me up. And don't get me wrong, I love me some Oreos, but I did not need $200 worth of them. And it also felt really wrong to profit off of this horrible thing that was happening. So instead, I decided to turn it into a little fundraiser. And we raised some money to donate to Lauren's Kids, which is an organization that raises awareness for sexual assault prevention. They're a really great organization. I will also leave a link to that in the description so you guys can check them out. I'm really glad that we were able to do that. I'm really glad that so many followers participated because it felt really good to be able to make something kind of positive in the midst of this horrible situation. And in a way, it kind of felt like we were taking back the power that he tried to take from us. I was really to the point of wanting to quit, but then I realized he does not get to have that much power over me. He already stole my likeness. He doesn't get to control what I do from here on out. It took a while for me to realize that none of this was my fault. Someone pointed out to me that if it wasn't me, he would have used someone else's photos. I can't control what he did to me or those girls, but I am in full control of how I handle this situation. It's kind of a cruel irony that he would choose me, for one, because I use all of my platforms to speak out against sexual assault, but also because I have survived some very similar situations. If you follow my other platforms, you know that I'm really open about talking about my experiences with sexual assault, and the one that I want to talk about is when I was raped by my boyfriend when I was 14. It took me over a year to come out and tell anybody, and when I finally told my parents and we tried to press charges, it did not go well. I wasn't treated very kindly by law enforcement. I didn't really have anybody to work on my case. I didn't have sufficient evidence, and he basically got away with no record and some community service that I don't even think that he ever did. I never got closure from that. I'm probably never gonna get closure from that. Side note, I have to talk about how amazing that the law enforcement who are working on the Escambia case have been. They took every allegation super seriously. They kept in constant communication with me. They worked really hard to get a lot of evidence so they could press multiple charges on Mark Lua. It's so common to see sexual assault cases like this get swept under the rug. I know there are so many people with stories like mine where they never got justice, and it is so dope to know that the police are taking this so seriously and working so hard to get justice for these girls. My story is just one in a million of why survivors are so terrified to speak out against their abusers, and I know exactly how absolutely terrifying and hopeless that it can feel. My whole life got flipped upside down after that. On top of being super traumatized and depressed, I had to switch schools. I lost all of my friends. I mean, to this day, I'm still dealing with it. I had to drop out of high school. I still have a lot of trauma and mental health issues. I know a lot of the girls who survived Mark are going through a really similar situation, and their whole lives have been flipped upside down, and I am so fucking proud of them. I don't know if any of you are watching right now. I am so fucking proud of you because you had strength to do what I couldn't do when I was your age. This was the part that I wasn't gonna script at all, and now I'm kind of wishing that I did. I wanted to just talk, but I was there when I was 14, and I was there when I was 24, and I did not have the courage or the strength to speak up like you did. And I know what you're feeling, and I know that it's so scary right now, but you did so fucking good. It feels hopeless and weak, and it doesn't feel like you're strong because you feel really small, but there is strength in abundance when you feel you're at your weakest point and you choose to keep fighting anyway. You fought and you did it, and he tried to take power away from us. He tried to manipulate us and abuse us, but we are taking that power back. He doesn't get to hurt anyone anymore. I spent 12 years wondering why I had to be raped and why I had to go through all of these horrible things and why I had to go through abuse and why I never got justice and why all of this shit had to happen to me. I spent 12 years trying to be an advocate for women and trying to raise awareness about sexual assault and violence and abuse and mental health and trying my hardest to stay in control of this situation. Maybe there's some force in the universe that causes everything to happen for a reason. Maybe I just tell myself that to make myself feel better. Maybe it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, and by believing that there's some greater force in the universe giving my life purpose, I actually in turn end up chasing that purpose and giving it to myself. I don't know. All I know is that if I wouldn't have gone through those things that I did when I was a teenager, I wouldn't have had the knowledge or understanding to be able to be in control of the situation now. I don't even know that I would have known that I do have the power to control the situation. Maybe there isn't some grand plan for the universe, and maybe my role in this world is not as monumental as I try to believe that it is, but that doesn't stop me from believing. If this has taught me anything, it's that every action that every person takes, no matter how small or meaningless it may seem, it matters. All of this, everything happens for a reason, and we have the power to decide what that reason is. There are evil people in this world, but they do not have the power to control us anymore, because we are here, and we have the power. At some point in the next 7 days, I'm probably going to have a moment where I feel really small, but I'm going to keep fighting, and so are you. And I'll see you next week, because we're survivors.